You keep speaking, sending messages, showing interest, and doing everything a decent man is supposed to do. Yet it feels like you are watching your own life through a window while everyone else moves freely without you. There is a quiet humiliation in noticing people check their phones while you talk, in feeling the energy drop when your words enter the room, and in realizing that someone else can say less than you and still be taken more seriously. A man like Daniel, late 30s, stable, reliable, sends a woman a sincere message, and it gets brushed off with a quick reaction, while another guy throws out something careless and suddenly becomes the one she remembers. That is not because Daniel lacks value. It is because his presence does not change how she feels. You are not invisible because you say the wrong things. You are invisible because your words leave no emotional footprint. Real invisibility is not silence, it is being replaceable. And that cuts deeper because it means nothing about you shifts the atmosphere. You can be polite, loyal, and generous, and still fade into the background if your energy does not move people. Human beings do not carry sentences with them. They carry sensations. You can give praise and attention all day long, but if it does not awaken something inside the other person, it disappears the moment it is heard. Everyone knows what it feels like when one simple comment lingers in the mind for years, while dozens of others vanish immediately. And that difference is the real form of power. Being overlooked slowly eats away at your sense of worth. It trains you to accept less than you deserve, and it convinces you that being tolerated is the same as being valued. The reality no one explains is that connection is built through emotional pull, not effort. And when you lack that pull, you spend your life circling other people instead of drawing them in. That hollow feeling of being present but never truly felt is what you are living with. And if that sounds like your story, write "seen" in the comments, because this is where it starts to change. What that moment of being unseen reveals is something deeper. And this is where the Machiavellian lens becomes useful, not as manipulation, but as a clear way of seeing how people truly respond. Machiavelli knew what most never realize, that human beings are not driven by logic, they are driven by emotion, and language only works when it alters how someone feels. You can explain yourself, offer praise, or try to reassure forever, yet if it fails to change the emotional climate, it carries no force. This is why ordinary compliments fade so fast. You look good, you are clever, you are impressive. These lines slide past the nervous system because they do not touch anything alive. They are processed and forgotten almost instantly. Strategic compliments are different because they are built to reach inside, not to polish the surface. A woman like Elena hears endless remarks about her appearance, but she remembers the man who quietly told her that her presence brings a sense of calm into a room, because that comment revealed something true she had never put into words. That is real influence. Machiavellian thinking is not about control. It is about knowing what creates effect. And effect always begins in emotion before it shows up in language. When you speak to how someone views themselves, their mood, or their private narrative, your words begin to carry weight. Most men keep trying to impress with reasoning, explanations, and obvious praise, then wonder why they are forgotten. The issue is not the sentences, it is the aim. You cannot reach a heart by targeting the intellect. You reach it by making someone feel noticed, understood, or gently exposed. This shift is what turns a man from background noise into a lasting presence. Because the moment someone feels something around you, you stop being just another voice and become an experience in their mind. That subtle form of emotional power Machiavelli hinted at explains why so many compliments fail without anyone noticing. Because most of what people say sounds pleasant, yet carries no weight. so the brain files it away as meaningless noise. When you tell someone they are beautiful, intelligent, or incredible, it feels like you contributed something important. But in reality, you only repeated a phrase their nervous system has already processed countless times. The mind is wired to adapt quickly, and once it senses repetition, attention fades. A woman like Natalie hears how pretty she is from coworkers, strangers, and social media all day long. So when you add your voice to the chorus, her emotional response barely moves, not because it is wrong, but because it has lost all impact. That is why these compliments are lifeless. They describe what is obvious without touching what matters. A hollow compliment rests on the surface. It reflects what she sees in the mirror, but never reaches the person inside. "You are smart" functions the same way. It feels polite and harmless. Yet, it is empty because intelligence is something she already knows or has been reminded of before. So it creates no emotional shift. "You are amazing" is even weaker because it is so broad that her mind cannot attach meaning to it. So it disappears the moment it is heard. People are not moved by vague praise. They are moved by recognition that feels specific and personal. A compliment becomes powerful when it makes someone pause and wonder how you noticed something that others missed. That is when the emotional system activates. Compare saying you are beautiful with telling someone that the way they look at people makes them feel valued. One is a simple tag, the other is a reflection. One speaks to appearance, the other to effect. Or notice the difference between "you are smart" and telling someone that the way they link ideas makes every conversation feel more alive. One is a rating, the other is an experience. A man named Brian once told a coworker she was skilled, and she thanked him and forgot it. But years later, she still remembered when someone else told her that the way she stayed calm under pressure made everyone else feel steadier. That second comment did more than flatter her. It revealed a hidden part of who she was, which is why it stayed. Shallow compliments attempt to add worth from the outside, but emotional compliments uncover worth that was already there. When someone hears words that match how they quietly see themselves, it feels intimate, almost risky, because it brings something real into the open. That is why the mind wakes up. It is not receiving praise, it is recognizing itself. Most men never understand this because they assume more words mean more effect. But in truth, the deeper the compliment, the less it needs to say. One precise sentence can do more than 100 empty ones. The goal is not to sound impressive, it is to leave a mark. When your words create a trace inside someone, you stop fading into the background and start being felt. And that is where true connection begins. If you have ever offered a pleasant-sounding compliment that led nowhere, write one compliment you used that failed in the comments, because seeing it will show you exactly why it had no life. Most compliments vanish the moment they are spoken, and that is because they were never designed to live inside someone. They were only meant to pass through. People talk endlessly, filling the air with nice phrases. Yet the words that truly matter are the ones that continue to exist after the moment is gone. A woman named Claire once shared that she could not remember a single sweet thing her long-term partner ever said to her. But she could still recall one quiet line from a man she barely knew, simply because it made her feel seen in a way she never had before. He did not mention her appearance or her style. He noticed how her attention made people feel important, and that one observation stayed with her far longer than any compliment about beauty ever could. Dozens of men called her attractive, but one man reflected something real back to her. And the mind always keeps what feels true. Compliments that last do not polish the outside. They touch a belief someone quietly holds about who they are. And when that happens, the brain locks onto it. When a sentence reaches that emotional depth, It becomes part of how a person understands themselves. And people never forget those who shape their inner story. Think about how much praise you have heard that faded by the next morning. Then remember the one remark that stayed with you because it felt like it knew you. That is the kind of influence Machiavellian thinking focuses on. Not empty flattery, but emotional accuracy. When what you say aligns with how someone experiences their own nature, it creates a feeling that is both intimate and powerful, because it touches something real. A man named Victor once told a colleague that her calm presence made stressful moments easier for everyone, and years later, she still remembered him, because no one else had ever named that part of her. You do not become unforgettable by speaking louder or sweeter. You become unforgettable by speaking truthfully. The words that endure are not dramatic, they are precise. They make someone reflect on who they are, not just how they appear. That is why many compliments fade while one sentence remains. Because the mind is not collecting praise, it is collecting identity. When you speak to someone's inner self, you leave a mark that time cannot easily erase. Most people are quietly craving to be recognized beyond the surface. And when someone finally does that, it feels like relief. The moment a compliment makes someone feel understood, it stops being a line and starts becoming a memory. And memories carry real power. This is how you move from being just another voice to being someone who stays in their thoughts. If you want your words to stop disappearing and start staying, this is the shift you must make. Because being remembered is never about saying more. It is about touching what truly matters. And as you leave behind the empty compliments we discussed before, the next step is learning how to aim your words so they do not just arrive, they remain. A compliment only becomes powerful when it touches who someone is, rather than what they display. Because admiration fades, but recognition binds. Praising appearance lives on the surface. It disappears the moment lighting, mood, or attention changes. Yet acknowledging identity creates something that lingers because it connects to how a person experiences themselves. A woman like Megan hears endless remarks about her looks through photos, messages, and casual comments. So when you tell her her eyes are pretty, it slides past her mind without leaving a mark. Not because it is untrue, but because it adds nothing to her sense of self. But when you say that her gaze makes people feel understood, that when she looks at someone they feel present with her, the words suddenly carry weight. You are no longer describing her features, you are reflecting her presence. That shift turns a polite compliment into a meaningful moment. A man named Jordan once told a woman he was seeing that her calm energy made every room feel less rushed. And she later admitted no one had ever put that into words, even though it was exactly how she saw herself. That sentence did not decorate her, it revealed her. And because of that, it created an emotional bond. Noticing how someone exists in the world builds a form of closeness that physical praise never reaches. The same principle applies to her mind. Saying you are smart feels like a label, but saying the way you connect ideas makes conversations feel clearer, makes her feel that you noticed how she thinks, not just what she has achieved. Identity-based compliments do not inflate ego. They resonate with truth. They stay because they mirror something already living inside the person. People are not drawn to flattery. They are drawn to being recognized. When you speak to someone's nature, their way of perceiving, feeling, or moving through life, you give them the rare experience of being seen, and that creates a quiet magnetism. That is why these words endure, because they become part of how a person understands themselves. A woman may forget who admired her looks, but she will always remember who made her feel understood. This is the kind of influence Machiavellian thinking points to. Not manipulation, but precision. When you learn to direct your words toward identity instead of appearance, your compliments stop fading and start forming real connection. And connection is what keeps people close. Once someone feels seen for who they truly are, not just how they appear, they do not just hear you, they feel you. And that feeling is what makes you impossible to replace. And after you learn how to speak to someone's identity, the next stage becomes far more powerful. Because now your words no longer describe her. They reveal what she does to you inside. This is where language stops being information and starts becoming attraction. Because you are no longer labeling who she is, you are showing her the emotional effect she creates. When you say something like being around you makes everything feel slower and calmer, you are not commenting on her traits. You are exposing her influence. And influence is what makes a person feel meaningful. A woman named Sophia once said that being called attractive meant nothing to her. But she could never forget the man who told her that his thoughts became quieter when she was near, because that made her feel like she touched something deep in him. People do not just want admiration. They want to know they matter. Compliments that point to emotional impact reach deeper because they answer a silent question everyone carries, which is, do I change how others experience the world? When you acknowledge that someone shifts your mood, your energy, or your inner state, you give them proof that their presence has real weight. That kind of recognition creates closeness because it feels private, not generic. You are not repeating something anyone could say. You are sharing something only you feel. That makes it authentic. A man named Aaron once told a woman that every time she smiled, the tension in a room melted. And she later said it moved her more than any remark about her appearance ever had, because it showed she held a quiet power she never named. Emotional impact compliments do not inflate ego. They awaken awareness. They make someone realize the subtle effect they have on others. And that realization creates a quiet confidence that is magnetic. This is why these words last, because they are tied to how a person shapes the emotional space around them. The mind remembers anything that confirms significance. When you speak about the effect someone has on you, you are telling them they are not just another person, they are a force. That is Machiavellian power in its purest form. Not control, but influence rooted in emotional truth. Words that reveal impact draw people in, because everyone wants to know their presence matters. And when you move from complimenting identity to acknowledging emotional effect, you stop blending in and start standing out. Because nothing is more compelling than knowing you change someone's inner world. But everything you have explored so far points to a single internal pivot. Because the real transformation does not come from better lines. It comes from a better aim. Most men enter conversations trying to sound impressive, confident, or attractive. And that goal quietly turns them into performers instead of influences. They chase the perfect sentence and miss the emotional moment unfolding right in front of them. The Machiavellian shift is to move away from clever wording and toward emotional awareness, to notice what the other person is actually feeling while you speak. When you start asking, what am I creating inside her right now? The way you talk changes on its own, because you are no longer projecting, you are responding. A man named Ethan once realized that when he tried to impress, women lost interest. But when he focused on making them feel relaxed or intrigued, the conversations naturally deepened. That happens because people remain where they feel something meaningful. This shift takes the pressure off you, because you no longer need perfect phrases. You need emotional sensitivity. Language stops being decoration and starts becoming direction. When you focus on feeling, empty compliments fall away, because you are tuned into the room rather than your own performance. This is what Machiavelli meant by influence, not pushing, but guiding emotional flow. When you create a sense of ease, curiosity, or recognition, you are already succeeding, even if you say very little. Think about how some people leave a strong impression with only a few words. That is because their presence shapes the emotional atmosphere. This change turns a forgettable exchange into something that stays, because feelings linger far longer than sentences ever do. And as you stop trying to sound good and start making others feel something real, you step into a quieter form of power, one that does not need to announce itself. Once someone feels something in your presence, they begin to respond to you in ways words alone could never produce. When you stop performing and begin guiding how she feels, something subtle shifts inside her without either of you needing to say it. Your words fade into the background, but the emotion you created stays, because the mind always returns to feeling when everything else goes quiet. A woman like Hannah might not remember most of what was said, yet days later she will notice herself smiling, because your presence made her feel lighter or more understood. That is when she starts thinking about you without effort, not because you pursued her, but because her nervous system quietly tagged you as different. She begins to measure other men against the way you made her feel, not logically, but emotionally, noticing that with you, there was a calm or curiosity she does not find elsewhere. Those silent comparisons always favor the person who left the strongest imprint. Over time, you become linked to a specific sensation, maybe ease, maybe intrigue, maybe warmth. And once that bond forms, you are no longer just a name in her world. A man named Noah once shared that a woman he barely saw kept thinking about him simply because he made her feel both safe and interested, something no one else had managed to do. That is emotional imprinting at work. When you create that kind of impact, you enter her inner world not by force, but by feeling. This is why words that generate emotion are so powerful, because they quietly change how someone experiences you. You stop being just another option and become the standard she measures connection by. When that happens, you are no longer replaceable. This is the invisible pull Machiavellian thinking speaks of, not manipulation, but emotional gravity. And once it exists, people move toward you without being pulled. And as this bond takes shape, it naturally leads to the final truth. Because what remains in someone's feelings is what makes you impossible to forget. As those emotional moments stack on top of each other, something uncommon begins to take shape. Because you stop being just another person in her life and start becoming a feeling she cannot easily replace. Anyone can talk, but only a few can truly be felt. And that difference is what separates background noise from real presence. A man named Mark once said he was surprised when a woman he barely knew kept checking in. Not because he was charming or impressive, but because being around him made her feel a mix of calm and curiosity she did not get anywhere else. When someone becomes tied to a specific emotional state, they stop being interchangeable, because a feeling cannot be swapped the way a face can. That is what makes someone irreplaceable. It has nothing to do with perfection. It comes from being connected to something inside her that feels rare and meaningful. People do not pursue individuals. They pursue how those individuals make them feel. When you create a unique emotional signature, you no longer compete, you stand alone. That is why effort by itself never creates attachment, because attachment is built through emotional impact. Once she links you with ease, warmth, or intrigue, you become the standard every new connection is compared against. Those silent comparisons always work in your favor when you have left a deep imprint. This is the Machiavellian truth about influence. It is not about force. It is about becoming emotionally significant. When your presence changes how someone experiences themselves, You occupy a place in their mind that no one else can easily take. And that is what it truly means to be irreplaceable. Not to be louder or better, but to be the one who made them feel something they cannot find again. Everything you have encountered in this journey points to a single reality, because what separates those who fade into the background from those who stay in the mind has nothing to do with looks, skill, or even confidence. It comes from the emotional weight they carry. Weak men try to impress. Powerful men leave an imprint, and an imprint is a feeling that continues long after the conversation ends. When you stop hunting for reactions and begin shaping the emotional space around you, competition disappears, because you become the standard others are measured against. A woman is not drawn to clever lines. She is drawn to how her inner world shifts when you are near. And that is the kind of influence Machiavelli understood. You were never meant to chase attention. You were meant to generate gravity. The moment your words touch something real inside someone, you stop being invisible and start becoming unforgettable. And once that happens, everything in your relationships changes. Comment Machiavelli if you are ready to be felt instead of ignored. Write seen if this video described you better than anything you have heard before. And subscribe if you want to keep building this kind of quiet, dangerous emotional power.